Welcome to the Bullish podcast, where faith meets mental performance. Let this be your guide on a journey of growth and resilience. Each week, we dive into conversations with top performers, exploring the mindset and faith that fuel their successes. This is the Bullish podcast. What's up, guys? It is the very last episode of season 3, and it has been a journey. It's been a journey. If you guys enjoyed any of these episodes, you know, there's over 30 episodes where I sit down and talk to people about mindset, mental health, faith, overcoming hardships, practical advice. Remember that one of your greatest assets is wisdom, and this is free wisdom for everyone that's joining us. So welcome, guys, to the Bullish Tribe podcast. I'm James, your host, and today we have our last guest of the season. We have a professional basketball player who's been from Marquette to Duke to the NBA to overseas. He has overcome injury. He has overcome just changes and the seasons and just really embracing. And if you, when you're listening to this conversation, you realize that a big part of his journey was transformed by his faith and how he would move from different stages of his life. You know, Ecclesiastes says that there's a season for everything, right? There's a time for everything. And our guest today was able to really embrace that. And he talks about that from moving from the league to becoming injured and then just working his way back up. And in the process, developing all these other opportunities that God has placed for him. And it's an incredible journey that he shares with us today. Not only that, he talks about just becoming a dad. And at the time, he was engaged and now he is married. So that is another stage that he is stepping into as well. And it's just an awesome story that he shares. And lastly, he discusses just the power of journaling. And when I first started talking to Theo, journaling was just, you know, a new concept, like most athletes, most musicians, when I sit down and talk to them, but a key piece of mental performance and knowing how to address and be ready for a situation. You know, we say we respond, we don't react, we respond. And you need to know how to respond. And in order to know how to respond, we need to know how our body naturally reacts. And that's what journaling helps us do. Not only that, but it also allows us just to unload those emotions. It allows us to put it somewhere. And if you've come to any of my workshops or have talked to me one-on-one, or even probably saw one of my older Instagrams, I talk about emotions like a beach ball. And you're always trying to push that beach ball under if you're not addressing it. But if you really want to enjoy the beach, you just have to let the beach ball go. You have to stop trying to shove all those emotions down under the water, because you can't have fun at the beach if you're only pushing your emotions down, only pushing the beach ball down. And so today we dive a little bit deeper into that. And as I said before, we have Theo John, professional basketball player, on the show today. And he shares his incredible journey, his testimony, and just his wisdom and insight that he's developed going through the various seasons of his life. So I'm incredibly excited. This is bittersweet because it's the last episode of season 3, and it has been a journey, but I'm happy that I can share this last episode alongside Theo John and his story and testimony. So guys, welcome to the Bullish podcast. Theo John on the show today. What's up, man? How you doing?
It's good. I'm doing really good. I appreciate you guys. That.
What are you doing right now?
Man, I'm a man of faith. Just trying to live out and learn what God has for me. Play basketball from time to time. I was fortunate enough to play at both Marquette and Duke University. Played in college for 5 years and now playing professionally. Will be going into my 3rd year this coming year, dealing with the little injuries and stuff. But right now, actually, I accepted a coaching position at Duke for the time being during my rehab.
What?
Yeah, so.
Dude, congratulations, man. I didn't know that.
No, thank you. A lot of stuff has been going on. You know, I try to mentor for who's looking for that, and just kind of be a godly presence in areas that's lacking at times. And, you know, I'm just try to be true to me in every environment that I am. And, you know, that's paved a lot of roads for me. So just continuing to do that, being me to the best of my ability and learning and humbling myself, knowing that I don't have it all figured out. But for those who feel like I could be a good resource, just being available and being, sometimes people just need an ear to listen, and whether they want advice or not, sometimes you just gotta talk yourself through it. So excited about that position. But yeah, playing professional basketball, get into real estate while I'm back stateside for a while. Played in the NBA a little bit overseas, just a professional basketball life. It's a suitcase life, as we like to call it. Very unpredictable, a lot of give and take, but fortunate to be chasing my dreams still. So just trying to approach each day with a heart of gratitude. And yeah, that's Theo John. Also, we're getting married, so family man. I'm a dad, soon to be husband, and got light and bright 16-month-old Jabril John, class of 2041, I believe, for future college coaches.
That's right. That's right.
And yeah, husband to be.
That's right, man. Shameless plug, for the future NBA. Dude, I love that, man. Congrats again. That's super dope.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so something that we've talked about a lot is just that professional basketball life. And you said, as you were talking, chasing the dream. How much of the dream were you expecting when you came into the professional world?
Hey, dreams are dreams. Reality is reality. It's two very different things. Again, I say that with a heart of gratitude, but it's tough. As I said earlier, there's a lot of give and take. I've had the game taken away from me once, where I was told by multiple doctors. I got 3-4 opinions, all top of the line doctors, saying that my career was finished. That we've talked about it before. It was actually the same car ride I found out my fiance, soon to be wife, was pregnant. Actually, she was girlfriend at the time. So talking about a cage rattle from God, like it gave me a lot of perspective. I was numb for a little bit, but I'm proud to say that I turned closer to God and just trusted. Obviously, it wasn't right away, but having that perspective that the game is a game. At the end of the day, it's a ball and a hoop, and 10 guys on the floor, 3 refs that we won't get started on that, but it's a game, and it brings you a lot of places. You always hear the phrases like, "Don't let basketball use you, use it," and just learning from a whole big picture mindset of what that truly means. It matures you, so it's a blessing. We were talking earlier about the sacrifice of like family time and just, I'd say, consistency, just because the business side of it can get ugly, but at the same time, it's the game that a lot of us love. So
yeah, that term when I started talking to the business side, when I started talking to more and more professionals, whether whatever area you're at, that word seems to carry so much weight as you move into the professional world. So we've on this show, we've heard many different takes about the business side. What and I really like your perspective on it when we've had our conversations. Could you share a little bit about balancing the business side with the passion side of this this lifestyle?
Yeah, well, if you have a good agent that does the job, like I'm fortunate to have, you don't have to worry about that too much. You just got to go out there, give your best, be true to you, because at the end of the day, that's who they're hiring. They see you as a business entity, and you are basically, the way you carry yourself is the way you're carrying your business. Literally, it's tough to navigate. There's so much that can go into it that you kind of have to learn as you go. You can be warned of things. You can be you can have even like an older brother, somebody that you're close to that's gone through it, but every path looks so differently. In life, but in basketball, in the professional realm, in any sport, like you can be on the same team with somebody a year removed and it can be a completely different experience. You can be on
Mm,
the same team the same year and it'd be a completely different experience. But um, just kind of trusting who you are and trusting your work, trusting your craft, and carrying yourself as its own business hired by a business is kind of the way I've learned to look at it.
mm,
It's not every business relationship works up for the best. You know, some on paper looks great, but in the reality of, you know, meshing together and merging, it doesn't work. So just having an open mind that you are separate from the team, which again in college and young hoops, when you're growing up, like it's team. It's
mhm.
um, relationship based most times. If you're fortunate, like that's not always the case. So if that's who you are, a team guy, be that team guy, whether the team is a team guy with you or not. So again, just separating the love of it from the business side of it, but not changing who you are and who you are as a player. I feel
Mm,
like for a lot of aspiring professional athletes, it's something that you really have to hone in on and work on. You know,
yeah.
same way the team has practices and you, I mean, if you're trying to be high level, I hope that you do stuff on your own. Like
Mm.
you still have to do all that on your own while being a team guy. So it's challenging to navigate, but I mean, the only way of doing it is doing it. So
Hmm. Only way of doing it is doing it. Yeah. Yeah. You gotta get out, get about it, and you gotta experience it. Um, now I've heard a couple times just like how that weighs on just relationships. Do you feel like it makes it harder to build relationships with teammates when you're in an environment where, like you said, you are a business hired by a business? Like you're pretty much just an entity that fits in the
mhm.
current season's like vision, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, 100%. Because say you're in the same position as a guy who off the court you good friends with, excuse me.
Mhm.
On the court, y'all are battling for that job. You guys like are in competition, and it can be friendly, it can be competitive, it can be ugly sometimes. Like it can be all that at the same time. But again, I'm a firm believer is in between those lines, you're allowed to be who they hire. And you're allowed to be a different person than you are off the court. Obviously, there's lines and there's, you know, boundaries with that. You're not trying to hurt nobody or do anything like that.
Right,
But
right.
that's not to say other people aren't like that sometimes. So when money's involved, things can get ugly. And at the end of the day, you got to realize, like in this business world of professional that basketball, sports in general, it's my family or your family.
Mm,
And in these situations, I'm choosing my family 10 times out of 10 without question.
yeah.
I can be cool with you. I can be, you know, I can invite you to Thanksgiving. I can cook for you. I can be great as a friend. I can be that ear, that shoulder to lean on. But when it comes down to it, it's tough to truly trust and develop those relationships when it's a dog eat dog world.
Yeah.
And again, there are boundaries with that. And different people have different boundaries. Different people have different morals and different standards of how they live. But in that world, it's hard to fully trust. It's hard. I mean, teammates is one thing because y'all at least fighting for the same thing. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
relationships with organizations, like the people who are hiring you.
Mm.
I'm coming off. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but I'm coming off a situation where the organization tried to. I mean, they did end up taking advantage of me.
Mhm.
Telling me one thing when in reality it was something completely different. And I'm a player. I'm not a doctor. I'm not.
Yep.
There's limitations to what I know and what I can, you know,
Mhm.
understand completely. But yeah, trusting God and just knowing like if I put my best effort, if I put uh, my like just the right mentality towards everything and approach everything in a godly way and a competitive way, but with the morals that I feel like I grew up knowing and learning, God's gonna provide in one way or another.
Mm. Man, that's so good. And bringing up God and everything, like there is a piece of it that that trust piece of, God's got some plan going on, right? And we don't really we rarely have the full understanding of it, right? A lot of God's understanding is way beyond our understanding. So how much have you needed to rely on that? And has that always been who Theo John is? Was this
Uh,
strong relationship with God?
yeah, so no. Straight answer is no. That's not how it's been me. There's a lot of things I've done that I've regretted, but
Hmm.
I say regretted as past tense because ultimately that created who I am today.
Yeah,
And
that's
sometimes
good.
you got to learn from your own experience. As I said earlier, you got to do it to do it. I've done things that I'm not proud of, and I used to be very prideful of.
Hmm.
But through that experience, I've learned a lot, I've grown a lot, and I've been taught and shown a lot. It's life. It's a confusing thing at times, and God's path, like it ain't a straight shot. He
Hmm.
going. I mean, I feel like I've been up here and at the top of what I've like things going exactly to plan. I'm at Duke Final Four.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm like we're doing good, pre-draft going well, and then the injury happens like
Hmm.
days before I'm about to sign a two-way, and I feel like I fell on my face, and especially having the game completely taken away from me, and people telling me like I'm done, and not just people,
Hmm.
doctors, like, you're done, you won't be playing ever again, and then to, I mean, quickly try to get some money out of it, try to play on one leg, took a quick contract, and like just that didn't work out. So I ended up going with the Wizards. They brought me in, and I'm, just so much can happen that like
Yeah.
you just have to trust, and you got to trust God's timing when it's easy and when it's hard. Because when it's hard is when He's really testing character. Navigating it is interesting, but from a big picture mindset, like I'm glad I am where I am today. I would say that. I learned a lot of lessons that I do not want to learn again. So
Oof.
it's it's tough, but you teach your own. You gotta bite down, and when you're tested, see where you turn to.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And you mentioned that sometimes it's hard to see God's plan when it's hard. I find that sometimes it's hard to go to God when things are really easy. I
Yeah,
feel like sometimes when life is going great, like when our business is going well, we got contracts popping out of nowhere, it's hard to be like, yo, God, thanks for this.
yeah,
Is that
yeah,
similar in kind of your experience and journey?
yeah. So when I was younger, I 100% agree with that. But now, I mean, I've been drugged down so far that like
Mm.
any little plus, any little thing that I see as a win,
Mm.
I'm grateful for.
Mm.
Um, we've talked a lot in our time working together and just staying even keeled, not
Yeah.
too high, not too low, staying in a great, or staying with the mindset of gratitude and discipline, and um, just passion with what you're doing. So when things are hard, who are you? How do you react? And when
Yeah.
things are good, who are you and how do you react? Who do you thank and who do you pray to when times are tough? Who do you turn to? Like, I feel like I've done a really good job lately and just allowing myself to basically see everything as a progression,
Yeah.
as the slow development of Theo John as the person, as the soul, not just the athlete, not just the father, not just the businessman,
Mm.
but like we talked about God's crazy how it works, like
Yeah.
works in mysterious ways. I mean, what's something that could seem amazing could actually be just a big, big black hole building. And you're
Mm.
so excited about it, thinking God about it, thinking whoever you're thinking about for it, and then turn one day and it's, I mean, this big storm cloud.
Yeah.
So just kind of seeing everything and staying present, staying grateful is the way that I'm trying to, I'm not perfect. I get excited and I get sad. So, but trying my best to pointing out those emotions,
Mm.
dealing with them face on, and um, kind of seeing them for what they are, just emotions.
Mm.
My emotion, just because I'm happy, don't change the sun if the sun's up or if it's down. Like I just gotta, stay even keeled.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. And this made me just think about it, when we were working together. And I'm thinking you still do this, but you were a champion at journaling. and you journaled like all the time, everything, which, you know, as a mental performance coach, that's awesome. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
can you talk about how you felt like the journaling had supported you through this process? Because I assume you kept doing it because it was doing something, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what does
So,
journaling do for you?
man, so first of all, I like to tip my hat to you guys just because, like, you completely changed my mindset with journaling. I remember when we first started, I was like, all right, like, you want me to write the diary? Like, come on, man, I'm feeling all right today. How about that? That's
Yeah.
it
Yep.
was the day, and I'm all right. That's about it. But as I really started to use it and lean into that, it just kind of helped me declutter my brain.
Mm,
Um, I had a lot that I was trying to do at one time, trying to maneuver, I was in Europe at the time for like a country I've never been to. Just, you know, there's so much going on. I was with my family. It was my first year in Europe with a family. Had business stuff, there's just a lot. So having that journal to just kind of write down and get things out of my head, get things on paper,
mm,
and then, you know, just build off of that. Like, I got better at the organization, and I probably need to revert back to ways that I was using it, just because I got journal entries here and my iPad over
yep.
here. But just organizing it, and when it's on paper, is just, it feels like you let it out. Like, you know, when
Mm,
you talk and have a real deep conversation with somebody about something that's either really good or really bad in your life, like, when you get it out, you just feel that much better. Like, um, it's helped me organize my life, helped me remember certain ideas that I've had, helped me um, like kind of reevaluate different things. Like, if I've written, say, a month ago, I was planning things this way, and now this month things have to look completely different, but
mm,
I can take pieces from over here and implement them here to make everything smoother. And now this is how, like, it just helps things slowly progress and build off of each other.
mm,
I've also learned it helps you from making the same mistake twice. If you're reading and reevaluating things,
mm.
when you're feeling some sort of way, you're feeling down, feeling frustrated with your situation and your circumstance, sometimes reading back to the times that I'm coming out of, like,
Mm.
reminding myself of what God has done in my life, just helps me flip that switch and get back into that mindset of gratitude and just full big picture perspective that, you know, life is going to be good, it's going to be bad, but it's going to keep going. That's the one
That's
thing
right.
that's true.
Yeah, man, that's good. Thank you for that plug. I might use that clip for like every new client I sit down with because that was so good. I appreciate you for,
Yeah.
yeah, for that, man.
Even
And
I find my facial expression when you first told me to use the journal, I was
yep,
like, yeah.
dude, you played it off well because I mean, you know, I could tell you were pretty cold to it, but like, man, you
Mhm.
you put the work in, right? And you
Yeah.
know, something I tell all clients, and I don't know if you remember this when we first started, is like your mental health is like when you're squatting at the rack, right? Like the weight is always going to be the same, it's always going to be there, but how deep you're willing to go is going to decide the output of your squat,
Mhm.
right? Like
Yeah.
if you're just going a couple inches, man, you're not going to see any type of gains, right? But
Yeah.
if you're going butt to the ground, you know, you'll see stuff, you know.
A big
So
thing, yeah, a big thing at first, I remember thinking that there was like a certain way you had to journal. Like, I'm thinking journal entries had to be the date, my name, some sappy stuff of how I'm feeling today, what's going on in my life,
yeah,
a note to myself in the future, that type of stuff.
yeah,
Like, that's not at all what my journal
mm,
is. It probably don't make no sense to anybody but me. So,
yeah,
like, but that's the purpose of it, you know.
right,
And that's how my brain works. That's how everybody's brain work is different. Some people gonna have the most organized journal ever. Mine, I mean, there's certain spots where I leave spaces because I know I'm gonna come back to,
right.
and I don't have it all out of order. So I'm getting better with, you know, uh, structuring things the way I think is gonna work. But
Mm.
it's just like life, you really don't know.
Dude, that's so good. I love that you brought that up because I think that is something that stops people from journaling in general is just, you know, they see in the movies, you know, like Dear Diary or Dear so and so, and then like you said, some sappy like little letter or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's really raw, right? Like you're literally like dumping emotions onto a page, and sometimes your emotions has no organization to it. Sometimes
Mm,
it's just like outbursts of anger or outbursts of emotions, and you just throw that on that journal, you know,
yeah.
and then you can look back at it. And the best part is, as you mentioned too, is like the longer that you live and the longer you journal, you're going to start recognizing that you're a setback that is turned into a comeback, right?
Mhm.
Again and again and again, you're a comeback story. You know, everyone loves the underdog story. And when you start journaling and you see all the things that you've survived or things that you have overcome, you are the comeback story, you know.
Mhm.
And going back to earlier in the conversation, and you talked about your injury and what the doctors were saying, I always like directing people to the second question God ever asked Adam, you know, is who told you? Who told you that? Right. And so I got to ask, like, what drove you to be like, nah, this isn't it for me?
Which part? Which part?
For the injury, well, yeah, it's sure there's tons of parts, right? But the injury specifically, right? When all
Uh,
the doctors are saying like, this is it.
I just, I spent a lot of time in prayer. A lot of that prayer was, focused towards the son or the child. I didn't know it was a son at the time, but the child that um, was to be born, and I was finding out
Mm,
about. And um, I knew already the family time that I had to sacrifice in the profession, and I was, just getting into that. But honestly, I just felt such a strong conviction throughout my life,
yeah.
given hoops and given basketball. Like, that's, at times it was idle, and at times it was my relief from the world. Things going on in life that basketball, the 10 feet don't change.
Mm,
94 feet long, about 50 feet wide, that don't change. So in between those lines, I was able to let out a lot of emotion that in the world I couldn't. Being a tall Black American, like, I was intimidating. I knew I had to, cross my T's, dot my I's when I was in
mm,
public. I can't have any big outlashes of emotion, and
mm.
that's not life. So basketball, if you look look at my Instagram, a lot of my pictures, like, I'm dunking, I'm screaming, like,
Yeah.
there's emotion behind that. I'm like, as much as I'm in that game, I'm in that play, and I'm, loving what I just did, like, that's a release of a lot that's been built up. And journaling is another way to let that out, but basketball was always that for me. And
Mm,
knowing that, and the love and the doors that's open for me, like, I just I felt close to God at that time when the
mm,
doctors were telling me I was out and I was
mm,
done. And maybe not right away, but as I eased out of that numbness that I was in, and because that's where I turned to, I just knew, like, you're not done. I had that voice in my ear, like, call me crazy, call me what you want, but I was like, I told one of the doctors, I was like, I'm not, like, I don't know what you thought, like, I'm still playing. And
yeah.
another part of that was, in reality, I was like, I've done all this work, I put in all this time, I've sacrificed, or I don't see them as sacrifices, but I've made all these decisions
Mm,
to say no to certain things, to chase this dream that I know God had more for me. And again, we're talking real here, like, the reality of having a life that you're responsible for. I was like, I need something from this game, because this was
mm,
before NIL. This was before, like, I didn't get a dollar. My Duke year, I got enough to pay my bills, to
mm,
live down there off campus. Like, I had enough.
mm.
God's green pastures. It ain't abundance all the time, but it's what you
Yeah.
needed. So I had that, and I was fortunate for that. But I was pissed, because I'm like, I've done all this and I'm not gonna see anything. So I
Mm,
took the first contract that came my way and went to Finland. And I wasn't healthy. I wasn't ready to play, but I did what I had to. I got a stubborn mindset of playing through injuries, stuff like that, and
mm,
I did that. And I wasn't to my full potential, and I was still able to, be myself, but nowhere near what I am truly as a player. So leaving there, and there was, again, I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus, but there was stuff that happened that we agreed to part ways, me and that team, and was fortunate enough to actually be with the Wizards, and their G League team is who drafted me in the G League draft. I think I was like a fifth pick or something like that, and so like they had a lot of interest in me, and ironically that the Wizards, the pre-draft workout was where I got hurt and I went down, and that was the team that picked me up. So again, talking about gratitude, like
for real,
the situation was a great learning experience. But going into the resources and back stateside, like in Washington D.C., I got family out there. I mean, that was such a blessing. And every day I was perked ear to ear, because I'm like, I know what life could be. I know where I just came from, and I know where I'm at now, and I'm just like, thank you guys. So I give them a lot of credit, because they nursed me back to full health. And a year from that injury is when I felt the best. I was perfect weight. I was the most athletic. My numbers from when I came in to where I left the go-go, like, were the highest they've ever been. Even the numbers compared to my Duke and Marquette years. Like my Marquette years, I was a linebacker playing basketball, but Duke was the year I started to slim down. And then this year, the end of my recovery with the go-go was where my body was primed and like felt amazing. And then it happened quick, because then their staff got fired, and all this work that really only they got to see, because a lot of it was like, I didn't travel with the team at first, because I was doing my rehab and they wanted me to be all in on that. So the people who were there were really the only ones that truly saw that. But then they got fired right after the season was done. So then I'm like, all right, well, now what? Because the one people that saw and really liked what they saw is no longer in position to, sign me or do anything. So then that led to the overseas year, and it's been a long story, man. It's crazy the details I could get into, because this last year I'm coming from, like, we had little to no treatment whatsoever, and my knee that was supposed to be the reason I'm done playing held up just fine with no treatment through a European season. And those who play in Europe know that means you're all right. It's fully healed. So it's now obviously I got something else that happened, this labrum tear in the shoulder, but I mean, it's coming back. I'm able to, we're part of it. So this one as serious as the other one. So I'm like, actually in journaling, when I was in Europe, and it was a rough time with what I was going through at the time, and I was reminded that I've overcome what was my biggest fear in life, which was a career-ending injury. Like, it's pulled me through that, and at the same time built me stronger. And I was also going through being a dad. Like, that alone is more powerful than the injury thing. Like, to go through both of those at the same time and come out where I have, I'm just nothing but grateful for. Because the birth story, that I almost lost both of them in the birth story, to make things short. And I'm looking at my wife is like literally on her deathbed, seeing all her organs outside of her, and my son, who had a lot of, like, not complications through the pregnancy, but like he had an umbilical cord around his neck and did not, like, they said that I forget the percentage, it was either 98 or 99% of kids born with all that happened are born stillborn or die right away. And same with the mother. So they're both alive and well. And it's but it's very humbling. It makes you realize how just fragile life is, and puts things in perspective.
100%.
I didn't even mention the fact summer league, after getting hurt, like, I had the opportunity to play for the Timberwolves hometown team, dream come true. And then the injury happened, and I'm doing my PT a glass door away from where they're practicing for summer league. So like literally being steps away, like physically, and you know, um, it was a test. But then a year removed from that, I signed with the Timberwolves after being a year healthy, and I get to go to summer league, and I'm playing for the hometown, living out what a year ago I would have done anything for, and just still being empty. It wasn't the opportunity I thought it was going to be, playing time wise and stuff. But you're hearing, oh, you're such a good guy, like you're doing exactly what you should be, like we love what you're doing out when you are playing, killing those summer mini camps before we go down there, killing in the like basically the workouts beforehand, and just not seeing the results you would expect, you know, the ones that you're hearing but you're not seeing. But it was just an eye opener that what you dream for like has to be more than of this world, because you're just going to keep chasing and chasing and chasing and just feel empty every accomplishment. Obviously you feel good when you get an accomplishment, but I mean, I've talked to guys that are NBA champions and world champions, and they were like, Jeff Teague talked about it actually too. One of the podcasts that's public, but I was talking to a guy where he's like, yeah, after we won, we were out and I was drunk and I just was sitting there. And I'm like, this is it. Like this, obviously the checks came in pretty pennies, but as far as like, I worked my whole life to get here and I'm here and it's just empty. So filling your cup with things that will actually fill you up, you know, is just something that I've learned to value a lot more than worldly accomplishments.
Yeah, man, that's that kind of age-old argument. Actually, it's not age-old. It's more new age of outcome versus the process, right? When you focus solely your identity as an athlete of I need to become a champion, what happens when you finally become a champion? Like, who are you now? You know what I mean? Who was it? There was somebody else too, a basketball player. He said after his last game and he did his official retiring, like, and he was out, he just talked about like his first season of basketball. He was just like, he would just get in his car, his like $1 million car. He would just drive the city. He would just drive the city because he's like, he didn't know what it was like just to exist. He was so used to traveling, so used to playing, being around people, and now he was completely alone. You know? And so it's just like, what should we be focusing on as a professional basketball player going through all of this? Like, what did you find is really the important thing to be focusing on as you're going through your career?
I say just like, as fortunate as I feel to be able to live out my dream of playing professionally, like I feel like it's taught me lessons that only that could teach me, like good and bad. You know, it's put me in situations where I've had to adapt, learn to be flexible with things that usually I'm not flexible with. You know, any workout junkie, like if you don't get your workout that day, I mean, you're not a friendly person to be around sometimes. Where like the season I'm just coming from, like gym availability was nowhere near what it is in the States. So like I've learned to find my peace in so many other ways than, again, worldly things. And you're not truly at peace if you're dependent on something, whether it be like the most simple textbook way of looking at it is somebody that, you know, is drinking every day, smoking every day. Like they're relying on that, they're dependent on that. If they don't get that, there's a negative like connotation. Why? Like just not a good thing. So when you're able to be at peace in any circumstance, and again, no one's perfect. You have emotions, like that's part of your flesh. But when you're able to have control over those emotions and control over your mindset, it at least shortens that time period where you can do something stupid, or you're gonna, you know, just have that negative energy around you.
That's good. That's good. And we talked about MVPs. And should I pop quiz you on what an MVP is? Do you know what MVP stands for still? I'm putting Theo on the spot right now. So.
Yeah, MVP.
And you're an athlete, so you're not going to give up. So what was that?
Was the V values?
V was vision.
Vision. Okay, yeah, no, I don't got it then. I thought I had it.
M is mission, V is vision, P is principles. It's the foundations of our identity, right? So mission, why did God put me here? Right? What is my calling? Right? Our vision, what are we looking at in the future? And then our principles, what are the hills that we'll die on? Those are things that I feel like we learn about ourselves too late in our life. You know, I feel like the whole when you turn 18, go find yourself. I think that's too late. Like you should have a good grasp of who you are before you leave the protection of your house, whoever you're staying with. You know what I mean? And going out on your own.
Yeah.
And so something you said was just becoming a dad, you know, and in our talks, you know, that being a good father, being a present father, and just, you know, being there for Jabril has been a huge part of your principles, huge part of your mission, you know. And do you feel like, and you said that's the reason why you got to play your game, right? Like now you got to play your game, you know. So how did that shift affect the way that you approach situations?
So I'm the oldest of three siblings, and my dad has always instilled that I'm the example. And that's been the case throughout my whole life. And I'd say taking pride in that in some aspects, but like when it's your son and your seed, it's a completely different level for that. Because I mean, in the days where he couldn't stand or sit up on his own, like you're teaching him how to do that. And I mean, you got kids, you know, they learn quicker by example than by voice. What you do, what you do is going to be what they do. What you say is not going to be what they do. So, and I mean, obviously until they're older, until, you know, you develop that relationship and that trust and that bond. But like when they're younger, they look to you for how things are done. And when I first found out I was going to be a father, I like looked in the mirror and I was like, I was just coming out of a season that I was not proud of myself. Like leaving Marquette, I left a lot of things away I'm not proud of. And I did a lot of things that at the time were principles that I didn't cross, and I crossed them. So like I was going down a road that I didn't like. And right before this all happened, I was just noticing that and kind of coming to terms with. And my fiance, soon to be wife, is a big reason that like kind of opened my eyes to that. But like it was that transitional period. And when I found out my kid, like I was like, it just accelerated the process. It gave me that extra drive, the extra fire. Like, this is not a thing that's gonna happen. Like, you don't have time now. And okay, you have time, but that time is a lot shorter now. I'm a firm believer, especially for men, like we don't go through any hormonal, body chemist, like physical, we don't go through any changes, but you do what you do to create the baby. You know, that's our only.
That's our responsibility, right? That's our part.
And that 9-month process of the pregnancy, like I believe that God created it like that for a reason. Like that time is so valuable because that's gonna really be the baseline of who you are as a father. Like,
oof, that's so good.
You're taught patience, you know.
In a loving way, everybody.
A very loving way. You're taught patience in a way that you never had the experience or put up with before, especially like me. Like you're taught just the empathy and the like emotions that as a man, especially as an athlete, like you actively and mindfully push away. Yeah, you have to face for the betterment of your other half. Like, because you know ultimately the better your other half is the better your seed is. And both are your responsibility. So like how you are affects everything. And at the time I was again, I've noticed, and I feel like that's one of the first steps is like, like realizing and coming to terms with who you are at that time. And
Mhm.
if you're not okay with that, making the steps to change that. But that it just all happened so quickly. And
Mhm.
again, I honestly believe, I mean, I was going through physical stuff too, where I'm trying to come back from an injury that's not, no one's come back from.
Mhm.
But from a spiritual, emotional, like holistic mindset, like I honestly believe that both went hand in hand into the reason I was able to come back.
Yeah.
So if I wasn't going to do one and just focus all on the other, it wasn't going to work because I was so mindful of healing myself in the mind and washing away everything, like, is the reason that I was able to come back. And again, I'm no doctor, so I can't tell you
Mhm.
the technical terms of everything. But I mean, even stuff with diets. I mean, I was fasting for the first time during that
Mm.
process. I was my diet. It's always been good, and I've always been, athlete. We have to be, especially high level. Like that's
Mhm.
just part of who you are when it comes to it. But from a spiritual standpoint, and looking into and seeing what the Bible says about your diet and
Mm.
fasting and prayer, just turning to that as a God, like it's the one thing He left us,
Mhm.
like, or one physical thing He left us. That's
Right.
like this. There's got to be some truth in it, So let's,
There's gotta be, man.
yeah, let's dig into what it's really saying,
Yeah.
and fully trust it. So,
Man, that's so good. And I know you keep saying you're not a doctor, but what you're saying is super profound. I mean, just the part about how God designed it where men have to partner along for 9 months during this process. Um,
mhm,
it really does. It's kind of like a boot camp, to be
yeah,
honest. You're really learning how to not just be an individual, but now you're taking care of somebody. And like
mhm,
it's a phase where like the person you're taking care of can still like take care of themselves, but eventually it gets to a point where you really got to take care of her
yeah,
to prep you for taking care of like someone who really can't take care of themselves.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And so that patience is out of love, but for most of us, we're not ready for it. Okay.
yeah,
We're just not ready for it. And God always finds a way to trigger whatever parts of our human makeup that changes us to caring about other people when we have kids. It's very profound. And I'm glad you brought that up, man. Um,
mhm,
and it also sounds like you had almost a miraculous transformation the more that
mhm.
you got closer to God as you shifted from, you call it your Marquette days, you know, to where you're at now. Do you feel that that's kind of what happened?
Yeah. So like, I mean, through the preparation stuff, like I was doing it and I was away from Zaya a lot of the time. Like
Mm.
she was at home. She came to Finland for a little bit, but then when I went to DC, because of the time in the pregnancy and just the travel and the schedule that I was on, like I was out there alone where she was back home with family. So
Mm.
I had the time to really self-reflect and, work on myself physically, spiritually, all that. So I was grateful for that and just grateful for family for just helping us out during that season. And
Mm.
but like as far as like when I used to joke about like the Marquette days and as accurate as it was, like I I always am very I turn back to like that's never who I was, like
Mm.
I knew better in a lot of things I did, and I was raised better than
Mm.
a lot of the situations I found myself in. So like again, I tip my hat to my parents for creating that voice that was in my head, giving me the at least sense. Common sense ain't always common. So like just having that baseline
Mm.
of faith growing
Mm.
up, and whether I was close to it or not, it was there and I felt it. And my parents worked hard to make sure that it was there. Sometimes me and my dad, like he made sure it was there, whether he had to physically put it there or
Yeah, yeah.
but like it. it kept me out of a lot of situations, because
Mm,
as dark as the path I went down, it was a lot darker if I took 2 steps this way, 2 steps that way at certain times. And I always felt protected that I didn't do anything way out of line, but I stepped out of my line. So
mm,
having that difference, and again, when you're in different environments, when you're young, like you said, you're figuring things out, like that temptation in the professional world, like that temptation is knocking at your door, like literally sitting on your couch, like
mm.
literally actually, like it in so many different ways too, that it just, you almost become numb to it, where it's just like how things are, you're just used to it. You don't get surprised by certain things, certain opportunities that aren't right, but are just like another day, you know.
Yeah.
It's tough to navigate, and in growing out of that and realizing like those decisions, both good and bad, stick with you the rest of your life. If you never feed a temptation or feed a demon, if you will, like it doesn't grow.
Yeah.
But if you do, it grows. And we were only made to deal with so much of that, you know? And if you stuck to the ways that God intended, like you deal with a lot less. But if you didn't, you deal with the repercussions later on. You may not see it at the time, you may not ever notice it, but they're there. And kind of realizing that you first have to forgive yourself and realize like you are who you say you are, you know? But forgiving yourself is like the first step, and then just slowly, you know, chopping wood. Same way we working out every day, same way you can't build biceps in a day. Like you just gotta slow chops, plug things away. You gotta surrender things. You gotta give things a God. You gotta talk with them, have that open relationship, be like God, work on you. And again, there's still stuff I work on. There's still temptations I fight, but I have a much firmer like foundation, firmer rock that's like, I've been down certain roads. Like that's not me. That's not for me, and that does no good for me or my family. So you're able to see the temptation for what it is, you know.
Woo. You're preaching right now, man. You're preaching.
I'm hoping somebody here that don't got to do, you know,
right?
Because best lesson you can learn is somebody else's.
Right, exactly. There's another line, man. There's another line. Like put that on a hat, bro. You mentioned that there's a faith-based business you're developing right now. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I mean, I got a lot of stones turning right now. I've been forced to sit down. I'm forced. 2 weeks in. Yeah, no, literally. Like post-op has been crazy. I thought it was gonna be a light surgery, but it's sat me down. But I've had time to work on other things. Like my real estate stuff is really popping off. I have a goal of buying 1 or 2 properties in different real estate aspects just a year through my basketball income. And learning that process and learning the ins and outs of that so I can help others. You know, it's NIL money crazy. So it's like, if people want to and people approach me with the interest, I'll be able to have the tools and the resources to help them. So that's one. The consulting business, that's really just kind of like a mentorship. It's honestly just me trying to help people and give back. Like I said, the best lesson is one you don't gotta learn yourself. It's really that, you know. I've been at the top of the top, at the bottom of the bottom, and everywhere in between, and finding the love in the process of everything. Like just being able to connect with athletes through that, and through not just athletes, but business professionals, entrepreneurs. I mean, even just anybody, you know, we all walk in different walks, but there is a lot that is carryover, and a lot of just, I mean, discipline is discipline no matter what realm you practice in it in. So just being that resource for people, obviously it's going to be faith-based. We're in the beginning stages of it. I'm fortunate that one of my first clients is Duke basketball, so I'm going to be working with them, and really excited about that.
That's
It's
huge.
kind of, this team is going to be really good, man. Like they got some pieces. It reminds me of the team I was on, and that's
Ooh.
part of the reason they're wanting to bring me back is just to make sure that that toughness, that grit, that
Mhm.
worldly perspective, and just I don't know. I'm blessed, man. Like there's a lot that people say I can bring to the table, and
Mhm.
honestly, as we talked about earlier in this, like I'm just trying to be me, as transparent as I can be, because honestly, I have nothing to hide. Like I'm at peace with everything I've done in my life,
I love that.
and like if I'm at peace and you feeling some type of way, like I'm sorry, like that's your emotion to have. It's not selfish. It's not like proud. Like it's just, it is what it is. You
Mhm.
gotta let people feel how they feel and release that. So
Mhm.
I'm just here as a resource to these guys, and as the business grows, as I'm able to navigate my niche kind of, and what I'm able to help the most in, and
Mhm.
kind of hone in on that. I mean, it's gonna be a process, but I mean, right now, my social media team, they're willing to hear out clients for the future, or if there's like small projects I could do on the side, or even just phone calls.
Mhm.
They told me to just have people refer to my Instagram, Theo John 123, Twitter, Snapchat, and IG. But I'm off Twitter. I'm off
Yeah.
Snapchat. So just find me on IG, man.
Yeah, those are crazy. Those places are crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot I'm leaving over there,
Yep.
but yeah, it's as it grows, I'll keep you up to date,
Mhm.
and as my availability grows, we'll see where it takes me. But right now, I mean, you're only young once, and I'm chasing my basketball journey as long as
Mhm.
God allows it, and
Mhm.
I'm excited about the lessons I have to learn, and just the opportunities that are of the future. So just being prepared and giving while I'm growing. Just trying to, you don't gotta be a millionaire to donate.
I appreciate you hopping on, man, today, and I appreciate your transparency for the most part, and humility, and just the wisdom that you share. So thank you for being on the show today, man.
No, of course, of course. I appreciate you guys having me.
Thank you guys for joining us. Follow Theo John. He is going to go on and do incredible things with his basketball career, with all of his other businesses. So check that out. And if you are an athlete or a musician who's looking to reach the next level of their performance or overcome mental blocks or barriers, reach out to me. I love to sit down. I sit down with a lot of people for free, no charge. Just let's hash it out. Let's just see what's going on, and maybe we can come up with a roadmap for overcoming those hardships. So check it out, www.bullishtribe.com, and follow, subscribe, hit that like button depending on how you're listening to this, and so you don't miss any potential future episodes, and so you can check out all the other interviews that I've had on this show. So once again, guys, thank you so much for joining me for this journey, coming along and listening, and just building your toolbox, building your wisdom. Because always remember, it starts with you, and your destiny is waiting. Thanks for joining us, guys. Peace.